I watched Dad's face light up for the first time in 6 months when he saw the sailboat floating behind our house. His hands were shaking. But not from the cancer this time. 3 months earlier, the doctors told us he had maybe half a year left. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer doesn't give you many options. Welcome to HOA Tragedies. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss stories like this. The chemo made Dad so sick, he couldn't leave bed for days. He lost 40 pounds, stopped talking about the future, stopped talking much at all, really. But when he was younger, before Mom died, they used to sail every weekend. He'd tell me stories about catching fish bigger than my arm, about watching dolphins race their boat, about Mom laughing so hard she fell overboard once. So I saved up every dollar from my job, searched online for weeks, and found this beautiful 30-foot sailboat called the Marlin's Dream. It needed work, sure, but I spent 2 months fixing it up in secret. New paint, fixed the torn sails, made it perfect. When I finally showed him, tears rolled down his cheeks. "Just like the one we had," he whispered. We spent 3 days straight on that boat. Well, mostly on the dock next to it since he couldn't sail anymore. But he could sit there, touch the wood, breathe in the salt air. And for those 3 days, he wasn't dying. He was living. Then the letter showed up in my mailbox. Big red letters across the top said, "Violation Notice." My stomach dropped before I even read the rest. The letter said our property had 4 boats total. The neighborhood rules only allowed 3. We had to remove one within 2 weeks, or they'd fine us $200 every single day. I walked out back and counted. Dad's tiny fishing boat he hadn't used in years. My kayak, my uncle's jet ski that he stored at our place for the winter, and now the sailboat. 4 boats. "This can't be right," I told Dad, showing him the letter. "Your boat just got here." He patted my hand, his skin feeling like paper. "Don't worry about it, sweetie. It's not worth the fight." But I couldn't let it go. This boat was the only thing making him smile, the only thing giving him a reason to wake up each morning. I called the HOA office the next day. A woman named Karen answered, her voice sweet at first. "Honey, yes. I sent that notice personally," she said. "I drive past your house every morning, and I've been counting 4 boats. The rules are very clear, but my father is sick," I explained, keeping my voice calm. "He's terminally ill. This boat means everything to him. Can we get a temporary exception just for a few months?" "Rules are rules, dear. If we make exceptions for everyone, where does it stop?" "I'm not asking for everyone. I'm asking for my dying father." Silence on the other end. Then Karen's voice changed, got colder. "You have 14 days. After that, the fines start. Have a blessed day." She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling something hot building in my chest. Not anger yet, just disbelief. That afternoon, I went online and looked up our neighborhood rules. Printed out all 73 pages. Read every single word. Buried deep in Section 12. I found something interesting. The rules said we could apply for a hardship variance if we had special circumstances. Perfect. I spent the next 2 days writing the best letter I'd ever written. Explained Dad's cancer, attached a letter from his doctor, included photos of him smiling on the boat, offered to pay extra HOA fees if needed. I made it impossible to say no. I submitted it on a Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, I woke up to Sarah's screaming. My older sister had flown in from Seattle to help with Dad. She was standing in the backyard, pointing at the sailboat. Someone had spray-painted "Remove this" in huge red letters across the white side. My hands started shaking. Not from fear, from rage. I knew exactly who did it. Marcus Henderson lived 3 houses down. He was the HOA president. A 50-something guy who mowed his lawn every 3 days and measured his grass with a ruler. Seriously, I'd seen him do it. He was also Karen's best friend. I marched down to his house and knocked hard on the door. He answered, wearing a polo shirt with the HOA logo on it. "You vandalized my father's boat," I said. He didn't even blink. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Who else would do it? Could be anyone. Lots of people in this neighborhood care about property values. Your boat collection is bringing down everyone's home prices. My father is dying. I'm sorry about that. Truly. But sympathy doesn't override the rules we all agreed to follow. He started closing the door. 12 days left, then the fines start, whether the boat is painted or not. I spent the rest of that day scrubbing spray paint while Dad watched from his wheelchair. He didn't say anything, just sat there with tears running down his face. That night, I got an email from Karen. Your hardship request has been reviewed and denied. The board feels that making exceptions would set a dangerous precedent. Please comply with the original notice. 10 days left. I started researching lawyers, HOA law, property rights, spent hours reading cases online about people fighting their neighborhood associations. That's when I found something that made my blood run cold. Our neighborhood rules said that after repeated violations, the HOA board had the legal right to remove the problem themselves. At our expense, they could take Dad's boat and charge us for it. I showed Dad the email and the rule I'd found. He squeezed my hand weakly. Let it go, he said. I don't want you fighting them. The stress isn't worth it. But the next morning, something happened that made fighting impossible to avoid. I woke up at 6:15 to a loud bang outside, ran to the window, and saw Marcus standing on our dock, taking photos of the sailboat, writing things down on a clipboard. When I rushed outside in my pajamas, he looked up and smiled. Just documenting the ongoing violation, he said. For our records, get off my property. Your dock extends into community waterway. I have every right to be here. He snapped another photo. 9 days left. I'd start making arrangements if I were you. He walked away, whistling. I stood there, shaking. And for the first time since Mom died, I felt truly helpless. But then my phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chun, our neighbor across the street. I saw Marcus spray painting your boat at 5 Knock A. Yesterday. I have it on my security camera. Call me. Mrs. Chun's security footage showed everything. Marcus walking across our yard at 5:00 a.m. with a spray paint can, looking around to make sure nobody was watching, then carefully painting those red letters across Dad's boat. I knew it, I said, watching the video on her phone. Can you send this to me? Mrs. Chun bit her lip. She was 72 and had lived in our neighborhood for 30 years. If I give you this, Marcus will know it came from me. He'll make my life difficult. He already made mine impossible. She nodded slowly. You're right, I'll send it. That man has gotten too powerful. Someone needs to stop him. I walked home, holding evidence that could destroy Marcus. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt calm, focused. Sarah met me at the door. Well, we've got him. I spent the next hour researching what to do with the footage. Called 3 different lawyers. 2 didn't return my calls. The third one, Mr. Patterson, talked to me for free. You've got clear evidence of vandalism, he said. File a police report. Press charges. The HOA president destroying property to enforce rules. That's abuse of power. Will it stop the boat violation? No, those are separate issues. But it might make the board reconsider their stance if their president is facing criminal charges. I filed the police report that afternoon. Officer Davis came to our house, watched the video, and wrote everything down. We'll contact Mr. Henderson, he said. This is pretty clear-cut vandalism. How long until something happens? Could be days, could be weeks. These things take time. We didn't have time. 6 days left on the HOA deadline. That night, Karen called my phone. Not the HOA office number, her personal cell. I heard you filed a police report against Marcus, she said, her voice with ice in it. He vandalized my property. He was trying to help you understand the seriousness of your violation. Sometimes people need a wake-up call. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you think destroying property is okay? I think you're being dramatic. It was spray paint. It washes off. But you know what doesn't wash off? The stain your four-boat marina is putting on our entire neighborhood's reputation. My father has cancer. And that's very sad. But it doesn't give you the right to ignore rules that everyone else follows. She paused. Since you want to play hardball, let me show you what hardball looks like. I filed a complaint with the county about your dock. My stomach dropped. What? Did you know your dock doesn't have proper permits? The original owner built it in 1987, but the county changed waterfront regulations in 1993. Your dock is now 5 feet too long. It'll need to be torn down and rebuilt. That'll take months of permits and probably $15,000. You can't do that. I already did. You should receive the county notice in a few days. Have a blessed evening. She hung up. I sat on the kitchen floor and wanted to scream. Every time I solved one problem, they created two more. Sarah found me there 20 minutes later. What happened? I told her about the dock, about Karen's call, about how we were drowning in rules and regulations that nobody had cared about until we got a fourth boat. This is insane, Sarah said. They're abusing the system. And it's working. Dad's voice came from his bedroom. Let the boat go, please. I can't watch you fight this anymore. But I couldn't quit. Not yet. I spent the next day at the county office, pulled every record about our dock, every permit, every regulation change, talked to 3 different clerks. And I found something interesting. Karen's dock was also built in 1987. Same builder, same design, which meant if mine was illegal, so was hers. I took photos, printed documents, made copies of everything. Then I drove to the local newspaper office. The receptionist looked bored until I explained my story. Dying father, HOA harassment, spray paint vandalism, abuse of power. Let me get someone, she said. Suddenly interested, 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Rachel Torres, an investigative reporter who'd been covering HOA disputes for 5 years. This happens more than you'd think, Rachel said, taking notes. HOAs that start out reasonable and slowly become dictatorships. Can I see the security footage? I showed her everything. The video, the police report, the violation notices, the emails from Karen. Rachel's eyes got wider. This is good. Really good. Would you be willing to go on record? Will it help my dad keep his boat? It'll put pressure on the HOA board. Public shame is a powerful tool. These people care deeply about their reputations. Then yes, let's do it. The article came out 3 days later. Front page of the local section. HOA president accused of vandalizing terminally ill residents' property, complete with photos of dad on his boat. Quotes from me, and that security footage screenshot showing Marcus with the spray paint. My phone exploded. Neighbors I hadn't talked to in years were calling, texting, knocking on my door. Some were supportive. Others were angry that I'd embarrassed the neighborhood. But the best call came from Mrs. Patel, 2 streets over. I had no idea Marcus did that, she said. I'm on the HOA board. We're having an emergency meeting tomorrow night. I'm pushing to overturn your violation. Hope flickered in my chest for the first time in days. The emergency meeting was packed. 50 neighbors showed up. The small community center could barely hold everyone. Marcus sat at the board table, looking furious. Karen sat next to him, her arms crossed, staring daggers at me. This meeting is out of order, Marcus said, banging his gavel. We don't negotiate with people who slander us in the press. You vandalized her property. Someone shouted from the crowd. That's alleged. Innocent until proven guilty. Mrs. Patel stood up. I've reviewed the case. I think we should grant a temporary exception. Given the circumstances, denied, Karen said immediately. We don't make policy based on newspaper articles. We make policy based on compassion, Mrs. Patel shot back. This woman's father is dying. He has months to live. We can grant a 6-month exception. If we do that, everyone will want exceptions, Marcus said. Good! Another neighbor yelled, maybe we should have exceptions for people going through hard times. The room erupted, people arguing, shouting, taking sides. I sat quietly in the back, watching it unfold. Then Karen stood up and pointed at me. You want to know what this is really about? Control. She wants to break our rules, set a precedent, and turn this neighborhood into chaos. Well, I won't allow it. It's not your decision alone, Mrs. Patel said. Actually, it is, because while you were all feeling sorry for her, I did my homework. The boat violation fines started 3 days ago. She now owes $600. And according to our bylaws, any homeowner with outstanding fines over $500 cannot appeal violations until those fines are paid. The room went silent. Karen smiled. So, unless she pays $600 tonight, this entire meeting is pointless. The violation stands. I felt everyone's eyes on me. I don't have $600, I said quietly. All my money went to Dad's medical bills and buying that boat. Then we're done here, Karen said, sitting back down. But Mrs. Chun stood up in the back, pulled out her checkbook. I'll pay it. Then Mrs. Patel stood. I'll split it with you. Then 5 more neighbors stood up. Offering money, Karen's smile disappeared. Within 10 minutes, they'd collected $800. More than enough. I walked to the front with tears in my eyes and handed Karen the cash. There, the fine is paid. Now vote. Marcus and Karen exchanged looks. They knew they'd lost. Mrs. Patel called for a vote. All in favor of granting a 6-month exception? Hands went up. Opposed? Only Marcus and Karen raised their hands. Motion passes, Mrs. Patel announced. The room erupted in cheers. I couldn't believe it. We'd won. But as I walked to my car that night, Karen grabbed my arm in the parking lot. Enjoy your little victory, she whispered. Because I'm going to make you regret this. Karen's threat in the parking lot kept me awake that entire night. But when I checked on Dad the next morning, he was sitting up in bed with actual color in his cheeks. We won, he said, smiling. I heard Sarah telling me last night. We actually won. We did. You get to keep your boat. For 3 beautiful days, everything felt normal. Dad spent hours on the dock. Neighbors stopped by to say hello, even brought him cookies and casseroles. Mrs. Chun came over with soup. Mr. Patel helped me repaint over the spray paint damage. Then the letters started arriving. First one came on Thursday. Notice of yard maintenance violation. Grass exceeds 3.5 inches in northwest corner of property. I measured. Our grass was 3.2 inches everywhere. Second letter came Friday. Notice of paint violation. Mailbox post paint is fading and requires immediate refresh. Our mailbox was 2 months old. Third letter came Saturday. Notice of trash can violation. Garbage containers visible from street outside of designated collection hours. We'd brought the cans in 30 minutes after pickup. Someone had apparently been watching with a stopwatch. Every letter was signed by Karen Whitmore. Cho secretary, she's harassing us, Sarah said. Reading through the pile, this is retaliation. Can she do this? Apparently, she can write violations for anything. Each violation carried a $50 fine, if not corrected within 5 days. I was drowning in paperwork and fees we couldn't afford. I called Rachel Torres at the newspaper. Document everything, she said. Take photos with timestamps. This is targeted harassment. I'll start working on a follow-up story. But that same afternoon, something worse arrived. Not a letter this time. A person. County Inspector named Bill Crawford showed up with a clipboard and a measuring tape. I'm here about your dock, he said. Not unkindly. Someone filed a complaint. I need to verify the measurements against current codes. I watched him measure. Write things down. Take photos from 6 different angles. How bad is it? I asked. Your dock extends 43 feet into the waterway. Current code allows 38 feet maximum. You'll need to remove 5 feet or apply for a variance. How long does a variance take? 4 to 6 months, maybe longer? And if I don't get one? You'll have to tear it down and rebuild. County orders. He handed me the paperwork. I'm sorry. I know someone's complaint probably wasn't friendly, but the rules are the rules. After he left, I pulled up the county property maps online, spent 2 hours learning how to read them, how to measure dock lengths, how to check compliance records. Then I measured every single dock on our street using satellite images. Karen's dock was 45 feet, 2 feet longer than mine. Marcus's dock was 44 feet. Mrs. Johnson's was 46 feet. Out of 12 waterfront properties on our street, 9 were over the legal limit, including every single HOA board member's dock. But only mine had been reported. I printed everything, made a whole folder of evidence. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I filed county complaints on all 9 docks. If they wanted to play this game, we'd all play together. 2 days later, my phone rang at 7 in the morning. Marcus's voice was shaking with anger. You reported my dock to the county. I reported 9 illegal docks. Yours happened to be one of them. This is vindictive. This is revenge. No, this is fairness. If my dock has to follow the rules, so does everyone else's. You just started a war. Karen started this war. I'm just fighting back. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Karen was at my front door, pounding so hard I thought she'd break it. You petty, spiteful woman, she screamed when I opened it. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know how much it costs to rebuild a dock? About $15,000. You told me that yourself. Her face turned red. We can make your life miserable. We can fine you for every tiny thing. We can make you wish you'd never bought this house. Go ahead. Because Rachel Torres is writing another article about selective enforcement, about how the HOA only targets people who disagree with them while ignoring their own violations. We'll see what a judge says. She left without another word, her heels clicking violently on my driveway. But I'd made a mistake, a big one. Because that afternoon, Dad's home health nurse called me at work. You need to come home now. I drove 90 miles an hour, ran into the house expecting the worst. Dad was sitting in his wheelchair, crying. Not from pain, from fear. Someone came to the house, the nurse said quietly. A man said he was from code enforcement. Started asking questions about medical equipment permits, whether we had proper licensing for home oxygen storage, whether the wheelchair ramp was up to code. What man? Did he give a name? He left before I could check his ID, but he scared your father pretty badly. I knelt in front of Dad. It's okay. They're just trying to scare us. Make it stop, he whispered. Please, just make it stop. I don't want the boat anymore. I just want peace. My heart broke into pieces. Sarah pulled me into the kitchen. This has gone too far. They're terrorizing a dying man. I know. So, what do we do? I looked at my folder of evidence, at the pile of violation notices, at the county paperwork about docks. Then I made a decision. We go nuclear. I called Rachel Torres and told her everything. Not just about the boat, about the dock complaints, the harassment violations, the fake code enforcement visit, all of it. This is bigger than I thought, she said. This is abuse of power. This is elder harassment. Can I interview your father? He's not strong enough. Then, can I quote you saying they're targeting a terminal cancer patient? Yes, quote me saying whatever you need. The article came out 3 days later. Not just front page of the local section, front page of the entire newspaper. HOA board members accused of harassing dying resident, complete with photos of all the violation notices, quotes from me, details about the dock measurements, everything. My phone rang 30 times that day. News stations wanted interviews. Other newspapers wanted to pick up the story. Someone from a national news website emailed me. You're going viral, Rachel said when she called. This story is everywhere. I should have felt victorious. Should have felt like we were winning. But that night, I woke up at 2 in the morning to orange light flooding through my bedroom window. I ran to look outside, and Dad's sailboat was completely engulfed in flames. Flames shot 30 feet into the black sky, turning our backyard into an inferno that I could feel from my bedroom window. I screamed for Sarah while running down the stairs. Dad was already awake, his wheelchair positioned at the back door, watching his dream burn to nothing. "No, no, no," he kept saying over and over. "Not the boat, please. Not the boat." Sarah was already on the phone with 911. Neighbors poured out of their houses in pajamas. The volunteer fire department arrived within 8 minutes, but it was too late. The Marlin's dream was melting into the canal, fiberglass bubbling and peeling, the mast collapsing into the water with a hiss. I held Dad while he sobbed. Real, body-shaking sobs that seemed to hurt him more than the cancer ever had. "They killed it," he whispered. "They actually killed it." Fire Chief Morrison walked over to us an hour later, his face covered in soot. "This wasn't an accident," he said bluntly. "Someone poured gasoline all over that boat. We found 2 empty gas cans in the bushes behind your property. This is arson." My whole body went numb. Arson? Criminal arson? Deliberate destruction of property? I've already called the police. I looked toward Marcus's house 3 doors down. His lights were on. I could see his silhouette in the window, watching. Detective Linda Rodriguez arrived as the sun came up. She was maybe 40 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Walk me through your situation," she said, sitting at our kitchen table. I showed her everything: the violation notices, the newspaper articles, the harassment letters, the spray paint video, the threats from Karen in the parking lot. "And you believe the HOA president or secretary did this? Who else would? They've been terrorizing us for weeks." Detective Rodriguez wrote everything down, but her face stayed neutral. "HOA disputes happen all the time. People get angry. They sue each other. They fight. But jumping to felony arson, that's a huge leap. The timing is too perfect. Right after the newspaper articles made them look bad. Timing isn't evidence. I need proof." She closed her notebook. "I'll investigate, check alibis, dust the gas cans for fingerprints. But I have to be honest with you. Most arson cases are hard to solve unless we catch someone in the act." After she left, I found Dad in his room, staring at photos of Mom on their old sailboat. "I'm done," he said quietly. "I'm tired. I just want this to be over." "Dad, no. Listen, I've been fighting cancer for 6 months, fighting pain every single day, and now I have to watch you fight these people. I don't have the strength anymore." He looked at me with eyes that had given up. "Promise me you'll let this go after I'm gone. Promise me you won't waste your life being angry?" I couldn't promise that. Not yet. Sarah and I spent the afternoon calling everyone we could think of. Lawyers, the newspaper, even the county sheriff's office. "Without evidence, there's nothing we can do," everyone said. Same answer, different voices. Then Mrs. Chun called my cell phone. "Check your security cameras," she said urgently. "The ones you installed after the spray painting." I put up 3 cameras after Marcus vandalized the boat, one pointing at the dock, one at the driveway, one at the backyard. But when I pulled up the footage from last night, my stomach sank. All 3 cameras had been spray painted over, black paint covering the lenses. Someone had done it the day before the fire. "They planned this," Sarah said, looking at the footage. "They knew exactly what they were doing," I called Detective Rodriguez back. "That shows premeditation," she said. "But it still doesn't tell me who. Could be Marcus, could be Karen, could be someone else entirely who's angry about the situation. So, what do we do? Let me work the case. I'll check local stores for gas can purchases, review their security footage, interview Marcus and Karen. These things take time." We didn't have time. Dad stopped eating that day, just sat in his wheelchair staring out at the burned dock. The hospice nurse came by and talked to Sarah and me privately. "The emotional trauma has accelerated his decline," she said gently. "He's giving up. You should prepare yourselves." I refused to accept that. Refused to let them win. So, I did what I did best. I researched, spent hours online looking up arson investigation techniques, how police track accelerant purchases, how they match fingerprints, how they build cases. And I learned something useful. Most stores keep security footage for 30 days. The gas cans were fresh, not rusty. Whoever bought them did it recently. I made a list of every gas station and hardware store within 5 miles. 12 locations total. Then I started visiting them. "I'm looking for footage from your parking lot," I told each manager. My property was destroyed in an arson. The fire chief found gas cans. "I'm trying to find who bought them." Most places said no. Privacy concerns, liability issues. Get a warrant. But the manager at Anderson's Hardware recognized me from the newspaper article. "That HOA story," he said. "My mother lives in an HOA. They're terrible. Let me check something." He pulled up his system, scrolled through days of footage. "What dates are we looking at?" "Maybe a week ago the cans were new." He kept scrolling, then stopped. "Well, that's interesting." On the screen, clear as day, Marcus Henderson was loading 2 red gas cans into his truck. Date stamp showed 5 days before the fire. "Can I get a copy of this?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I can't officially give you anything, but if a detective came by with a request, I'd certainly provide it." I called Rodriguez immediately. "I found video of Marcus buying gas cans 5 days ago." "Where?" I gave her the address. She said she'd go right away. But when she called me back 2 hours later, her voice was frustrated. "Marcus has an alibi for the night of the fire. He was at a city council meeting until 11 p.m. Signed in, signed out. 30 witnesses. What about after 11? Says he went straight home. Neighbor confirms seeing his car in the driveway by 11:30. That's not enough time to—" "I know. The fire started at 1:53 a.m. According to the first 911 call, that's almost 3 hours later." My theory was falling apart. "What about Karen?" "She was at home," husband confirms. "Plus, she doesn't drive a truck, so she couldn't have bought those gas cans anyway." I sat down hard on my front steps. "So, we're back to nothing." Not nothing. We have the gas cans. Fingerprints came back today. They're in the system. We got a match. My heart jumped. "Marcus?" "No. His son, Brandon Henderson, 19 years old, home from college on spring break." The world tilted sideways. "His son?" "Brandon has a record. Got arrested for vandalism 2 years ago at a party. His prints are in the database. They're all over both gas cans." "Does Marcus know?" "Not yet. I'm heading to his house now to bring Brandon in for questioning. Want to come?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Detective Rodriguez's car outside Marcus's house when she knocked on the door. Marcus answered. His face went white when he saw the detective. "We need to talk to your son." "About what?" "About a boat fire." Marcus's mouth opened, closed. Then he looked back into his house, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure fear in his eyes. Brandon Henderson walked out of his house in handcuffs, and I watched Marcus's entire world crumble in real time. "Dad, I'm sorry," Brandon kept saying as Detective Rodriguez led him to her car. "I'm so sorry. I was just trying to help." Marcus stood frozen on his front lawn, still in his bathrobe, watching his son get arrested. Neighbors were gathering. Phones were out. Someone was recording video. I got out of the detective's car and walked toward Marcus. "Did you know?" I asked. He looked at me with hollow eyes. "Not until this morning I found ash on his shoes, smelled gasoline on his jacket. When I confronted him, he broke down and told me everything. And you were going to cover for him." "He's my son," Marcus's voice cracked. "He made a stupid mistake. He heard me complaining about your boat for weeks, about how it was making me look weak as HOA president. about how I was losing control of the neighborhood. So, he thought he'd fix it for me by burning down a dying man's boat. He's 19. He's an idiot. He didn't think about consequences. Marcus grabbed my arm. Please don't press charges. I'll pay for everything. The boat, damages, whatever you want. Just don't send my son to prison. I pulled my arm away. That's not my decision. That's up to the detective and the prosecutor. Then talk to them. Tell them it was a mistake. It was arson, felony arson. Your son destroyed the one thing that gave my father hope in his final months. Marcus's face crumpled. I never wanted it to go this far, I swear. I just wanted you to follow the rules. Karen's silver Mercedes pulled up right then, tires screeching. She jumped out, perfectly dressed even at 8 in the morning. What is happening? She demanded, looking at the police car. Brandon set the fire, Marcus said quietly. Karen's mouth fell open. What? No, that's impossible. Brandon wouldn't. His fingerprints are on the gas cans, I said. The police have security footage of him buying them. It's over, Karen. She turned on me, fury blazing in her eyes. This is your fault. You pushed and pushed with your newspaper articles and your complaints until you drove that boy to do something desperate. I didn't make him commit arson. He chose that himself. You ruined this neighborhood. Everything was fine until you decided rules didn't apply to you, Detective Rodriguez walked back over. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to need to ask you some questions. 2. Karen straightened her jacket. I had nothing to do with this. Maybe not with the fire, but I've been reading these newspaper articles. Lots of allegations about harassment, abuse of HOA power. If Brandon was motivated by things he heard his father and you saying, that could make you accessories. That's ridiculous. You can't charge someone for complaining about rule violations. I can, if those complaints were part of a pattern of harassment that led to a crime. Rodriguez pulled out her notebook. Did you ever tell Marcus Henderson that you wanted the boat gone by any means necessary? Karen's face went pale. I may have said something like that, but it was just an expression. I meant legally. Did you spray paint the cameras at their property? What? No, I don't even know where they live exactly. You said you drove by every morning on your walks. I meant generally, in the neighborhood. I watched Karen stumble through her answers and realized something. She hadn't planned the fire, probably hadn't even known about it. But she'd created the environment where a 19-year-old kid thought burning a boat was helping. Rodriguez finished writing, I'll be in touch. Don't leave town after the detective left with Brandon. Karen turned to Marcus. This is a disaster. Do you understand what this means for the HOA? For our reputations? The lawsuits that are coming? My son just got arrested, Marcus said flatly. I don't care about the HOA. Well, you should, because I'm not going down for this. I followed every rule. Everything I did was legal. She pointed at me. And you better not say otherwise to any more reporters. I pulled out my phone. Actually, Rachel Torres is on her way here right now. I called her when the detective called me. She'll want a statement about Brandon's arrest. Karen's perfectly made-up face twisted with rage. You vindictive witch. You won't stop until you destroy everyone, will you? I didn't destroy anyone. You all did this to yourselves. She got in her Mercedes and peeled out, nearly hitting Mrs. Chun's mailbox. Marcus just stood there on his lawn, looking lost. My son's going to prison because I cared too much about grass length and boat counts, he said to no one in particular. What kind of person does that make me? I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Rachel Torres arrived 30 minutes later with a photographer, got shots of the burned dock, interviewed neighbors, talked to Detective Rodriguez on record. This is going to be huge, she told me. HOA president's son arrested for arson in harassment case. Every news outlet in the state will pick this up. I don't care about the publicity. I just want justice for my dad. How is he? I looked back at our house. Sarah was visible through the window, sitting next to Dad's wheelchair. Dying faster now? The hospice nurse says maybe a week. Maybe less. Rachel squeezed my arm. I'm sorry. I really am. The story broke that afternoon. Brandon Henderson's mugshot was everywhere. Local news, regional news, even some national websites picked it up. My phone rang constantly. Interview requests, messages of support. Other people sharing their own HOA horror stories. But the call that mattered came from the prosecutor's office. Ms. Williams, this is Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Park. I'm handling the Henderson arson case. I wanted you to know we're charging Brandon with first-degree arson and destruction of property, given the circumstances involving your father's condition. We're also adding an elder abuse enhancement. What does that mean? It means, if convicted, Brandon is looking at 5 to 7 years in prison. Not probation, actual prison time. 7 years. Brandon was 19, he'd be 26 when he got out. His father is begging me not to press charges, I said. You don't have a choice in criminal charges. That's up to my office. But you could file a civil suit for damages, the boat's value, emotional distress, medical costs if your father's condition worsened due to the trauma. How much could we get? Easily $50,000, maybe more. With the right lawyer. After she hung up, I sat in my car, trying to process everything. Brandon was going to prison. Marcus's life was destroyed. Karen was facing potential accessory charges. The HOA was in chaos. We'd won. But when I walked back into the house and saw Dad crying silently in his wheelchair, staring at photos of the burned boat, winning felt hollow. They arrested the boy who did it, I told him gently. Dad nodded. Marcus's son, Sarah told me. He's going to prison for years. Good, I blinked. Good? Dad looked up at me with tired eyes. He burned my boat. He took away my last happy thing. So yes, good. He should face consequences. He paused. But you know what the worst part is? It won't bring the boat back. Nothing will. So, what did any of this accomplish? I didn't have an answer. That night, Sarah found me sitting on the ruined dock, looking at the charred remains still floating in the water. The prosecutor says we can sue for $50,000, I said. Will you? I don't know. Dad's medical bills are crushing us. The money would help, but Dad's right. It won't bring back what mattered. Sarah sat next to me. You did everything you could. You fought for him. That's what matters, did I? Or did I make everything worse by fighting back so hard that a kid thought arson was the answer? That's not on you. That's on them. We sat in silence, watching the water reflect the stars. And somewhere, 3 houses down, Marcus Henderson was probably sitting in similar silence, wondering how everything had gone so terribly wrong. Brandon Henderson's trial was scheduled for September, but Dad didn't make it to summer. He passed away on a Tuesday morning, with Sarah and me holding his hands, the hospice nurse quietly checking monitors in the corner. No dramatic last words, no movie moments, just his breathing getting slower and slower until it stopped. The funeral was 3 days later. I expected maybe 20 people. Instead, over 100 neighbors showed up. People who'd watched the whole HOA battle unfold, people who'd donated money for the fines, people who'd never even met Dad but felt connected to his story. Mrs. Chun brought flowers. Mr. Patel gave a speech about standing up to bullies. Even people from other neighborhoods came, saying they'd read about us in the newspaper. Marcus didn't come. Neither did Karen. But 2 days after the funeral, Marcus showed up at our door. He looked like he'd aged 10 years, eyes red, hands shaking. I'm sorry, he said simply. I'm sorry for everything, for the violations, for the harassment, for creating a situation where my son thought burning your father's boat would make me proud. His voice broke. I was so obsessed with rules and property values that I forgot about being human. And now my son's facing prison? Your father is gone. And for what? A boat count. I didn't know what to say. Brandon wrote you a letter, Marcus continued, holding out an envelope. He wanted you to have it before sentencing. After he left, I opened it. The letter was 3 pages long. Handwritten, Brandon apologized over and over. Explained that he'd heard his dad stressed about the HOA for months, about how people weren't respecting Marcus's authority, about how our boat was making his dad look weak. I thought I was helping, Brandon wrote. I thought if the boat disappeared, my dad would be happy again. I didn't think about your father. I didn't think about how much that boat meant to someone who was dying. I just thought about making a problem go away. I was stupid and selfish, and I deserve whatever punishment I get. But I want you to know I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I showed the letter to Sarah. Do you believe him? She asked. I think he's a kid who made a horrible choice. But yeah, I believe he's sorry. Does that change anything? I looked at Dad's empty wheelchair, still sitting by the window. No, it doesn't bring Dad back, the prosecutor called the next week. Brandon's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. 3 years in prison, 2 years probation, full restitution. They want to avoid trial. What do you think I should do? That's not really your call in criminal cases. But in the civil suit you filed, you could accept their settlement offer or push for more. Marcus and Brandon's lawyer had offered $45,000 to drop the civil case, to write a statement saying we believed Brandon was genuinely remorseful. If you don't accept, the prosecutor added, the trial will be brutal, very public. It'll drag on for months. You'll have to testify, relive everything. I thought about Dad's last words to me, about not wasting my life being angry. I'll accept the settlement, but I have conditions. A week later, I sat in a conference room with Marcus, Brandon, their lawyers, and my lawyer. Brandon looked terrified. Skinny kid with messy hair and eyes that couldn't meet mine. I'm accepting your settlement, I said, $45,000. But I want 3 things in addition. Marcus leaned forward. Anything. First, Brandon writes a public letter taking full responsibility. No excuses, no blaming stress or HOA pressure. He owns what he did. Done, their lawyer said. Second, Marcus and Karen both resign from the HOA board immediately. You push for rule changes that add oversight to board decisions and create an appeal process that doesn't require paying fines first. Marcus nodded slowly. Karen already resigned yesterday, and I'll propose those changes at the next meeting. Third, you donate another $20,000 to create a memorial fund in my father's name. The money goes to providing boat rentals for terminal patients who want to spend time on the water. The room went quiet. Brandon spoke for the first time. Like a charity? Exactly like a charity. So other people like my dad can have what he had, even briefly. So something good comes from this nightmare. Tears ran down Brandon's face. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you for giving me a way to make this right. We signed the papers that afternoon. The story made the newspaper again. Settlement reached in HOA arson case. Memorial fund created. Rachel Torres wrote a beautiful follow-up article about turning tragedy into purpose, about how communities could heal from conflict. But Karen wasn't done. She called me 2 days after the settlement, her voice tight with anger. You got your money. You got your publicity. You destroyed Marcus's reputation and sent a teenager to prison. I hope you're proud. Brandon destroyed his own life. I just want to move forward. Well, I'm not done with you. You filed those fake dock violations out of spite. You cost me $15,000 in permits and modifications. So I'm suing you for harassment. Go ahead. I have documentation showing your dock was illegal first, and proof you were targeting me with false violations as retaliation. We'll see what a judge says. She hung up. Her lawsuit got thrown out 6 weeks later. The judge called it frivolous and ordered Karen to pay my legal fees. After that, she stopped calling. The HOA held elections in August. Every single board member except Mrs. Patel lost their seat. New people took over. Younger families, people who actually wanted to build community instead of enforce rules. They changed the boat limit to 5 per property, added appeal processes, created hardship exemptions for medical situations. Too late for Dad, but not too late for everyone else. Sarah flew back to Seattle in September. Before she left, we stood on the rebuilt dock together. "You did good," she said. "Dad would be proud." "I don't know. I think he'd say I spent too much energy fighting." "Maybe. But you also created something beautiful from the mess. That memorial fund, that's his legacy now." The Marlin's Dream Memorial Fund officially launched in October. The settlement money, plus donations from neighbors who'd followed our story, gave us enough to rent boats for 20 terminal patients that first year. The first rental went to a woman named Patricia with stage 4 lung cancer. She wanted to see dolphins one more time before she died. I took her out myself, helping secure her oxygen tank, making sure she was comfortable. When a pod of dolphins appeared, racing alongside our boat, Patricia started crying. Happy tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost." Standing on that boat, wind in my hair, sun warming my face, I finally understood what Dad had been trying to tell me. The boat was never really the point. It was about joy in darkness, hope in suffering, living fully even when death was coming. They'd burned the Marlin's dream, but they couldn't burn what it represented. And now other people would get to feel what Dad felt. That moment of pure happiness. That connection to something bigger than hospital beds and medical bills. I pulled out my phone and opened the last voice message Dad had left me, recorded a week before he died. "Stop fighting, kiddo. Start living." That's what the boat was supposed to teach you. Don't let anger steal your life like cancer stole mine. Find joy, make memories, help people. That's how you win, not by destroying your enemies, but by becoming someone they could never break. I'd listened to that message 100 times, but standing on that boat, watching Patricia smile at the dolphins, I finally heard what he really meant. The HOA wars were over. The lawsuits settled. The bad guys had faced consequences, but the real victory was right here, in this moment, helping someone else find joy. Brandon was serving his sentence. Marcus had moved away. Karen had lost her power. And I'd found my purpose. Dad's boat was gone, but his dream was alive. And that made all the fighting, all the pain, all the loss worthwhile. Because some things can't be burned, can't be destroyed, can't be taken away by petty people with clipboards and rule books. Love lives forever. Joy echoes across time. And kindness multiplies in ways revenge never could. Dad understood that at the end, another day, another ridiculous situation, HOA Tragedies delivers again. Don't forget to like and follow us for more juicy chaos.